Hi there, my name is Matthew Weeks. I'm a senior software engineer, and I'm looking to share some tips and advice that I've found useful throughout my career to work with teams better and to communicate within my teams and within my projects. My favorite tip for any new developer or anyone looking to start their career or to improve their career is to keep a regular log and to journal, ideally daily, in order to have their thoughts written out specifically. What I've found over the course of time is that when I have to write out my ideas into a journal, it makes me think very concretely and specifically about what I'm trying to say, as opposed to speaking verbally all the time or thinking inside of my head. Those thoughts and those words are ephemeral. They don't necessarily stay static, and therefore I don't entirely know that they're as accurate as I would like them to be. When I write out words, then I tend to write more specifically and to communicate ideas more concretely. When I want to solve a problem, or if I'm struggling with something more nebulous, say an issue at work, it helps to journal, because when I journal, I start off with just a vague thought, and as I write more and more, I start to come up with more concrete terms. For example, in a previous role, I was feeling unhappy with the work that I was doing, and I kept feeling that maybe I needed to switch projects or that I needed to improve the working conditions. And over time, I realized that it wasn't specifically the project or even the team that was an issue for me. My team was great. The projects and the work that I was doing were pretty great. The problem was that for me, I was unfulfilled at work. I wanted to delve deeper into a product and understand the customer better, and I didn't want to continue bouncing from project to project as a freelancer or an agency worker, which is what I was doing at the time. So after journaling about that, I wound up seeking out a new role and found a job at a company that I was very excited about, that I'd wanted to work at for a very long time, but that I just hadn't felt confident enough to apply to before. And so I applied to all the roles that I was interested in. I found the job that I really wanted to get. I took that job, and now I'm much happier as a result. There are a few different techniques that I use in my journaling to keep me focused. The first that I do every day is my daily journal. I write a daily schedule for myself each and every day that forces me to think a bit more clearly about what I want to accomplish for that day. This is based on Getting Things Done by David Allen, and it is a great book about how to accomplish tasks and how to break out tasks. One of the ideas is that any idea that you have should be written down. And the reason for that is once it's out of your head, it's on paper. It's no longer cluttering your thoughts. It's no longer getting in the way. I also keep a daily schedule and my primary objective, which is one task that I want to accomplish for the day, as well as a set of tasks that relate to that goal. Doing this every day keeps me more real with myself. It forces me to think about what I want to accomplish for the day, and then it gives me the ability to look back over the course of a week or a month or a quarter and see what I accomplished and what I didn't. The other thing that I do on a quarterly or annual basis is a quarterly and annual review. Now, this is something that I do for myself. It's a personal goal setting technique that I took from Taylor Pearson's blog. I can link out to an example. His example is much more detailed than mine. Mine is much more nebulous, but the point of it being is that I have a regular check-in with myself around my goals and what I want to accomplish. In my annual review this year, for instance, I put in that I wanted to move into a product company as opposed to continuing to be a consultant. I also put in that I wanted to be a freelancer and own my own business for a period of time to see how I liked it. I'd done this before in the past, but I hadn't quite enjoyed it as much because I was a bit more junior in my career. I wanted to see how it would play out as a senior. Now, I did try this, and I did actually have some success with the freelancing. It was a lucrative career, it was enjoyable, and there were some interesting projects that I got a chance to work on. However, given the circumstances around my life and my current goals, it just wasn't the right fit for me. All of this I discovered for myself through journaling. And that's what I love about it. is a personal discovery, and it typically takes me from where I think I want to go to where I actually want to go. And I think that's very important if you're trying to figure out anything, especially if you're early in your career and you don't quite know things yet. The other thing that I do on a daily basis is morning pages. Morning pages is a practice that was created by Julia Cameron in her book, The Artist's Way. Morning pages are effectively 3 long pages of free-form thought that you just stream of consciously write. Now, the purpose of this is you get to go through a small personal journey, and you'll typically find out a variety of things that are blocking you in your day-to-day life that you aren't quite expecting. Now, the reason that this works is you do it every day and you force yourself to do it even on the boring days. On days that I'm upset or that I'm worried about something, it helps me to get that out of my head and let me focus on what I have to do that day. It also helps me to come up with solutions sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. With morning pages, the goal is not to get to some specific outcome, but rather to get those thoughts out of your head and to have a conversation with yourself, which is really interesting. By putting your thoughts onto paper, you concretely identify what's bothering you, and it helps you to figure out solutions, move on, and to come up with more creative ideas. As well, on days that I'm not feeling particularly excited or upset, it's just a boring day, I've found that these pages will force me into a bit more of a creative mindset. By writing out 3 long pages, I'll typically have 2 pages of just boring thoughts that I'm not quite interested in. I don't want to write this, I don't want to write this, I don't want to write this, I don't know what to write. But by the 3rd page, I almost always have some personal discovery that's really useful for me going forward. As you can see here, I have a pile of journals that I have accumulated over the years. Now, these are just a small group of them. They all look the same because they're all Moleskines or knockoff Moleskines. I really like the Moleskine brand. It's a fantastic notebook. Highly recommend it. And these are also not all of my notebooks. I have a small box of notebooks that I've kept over the course of 7 years. I've been writing daily for about 7 years now, and these are just a small subset of the journals that I've kept. Now, as you can see, they're all pretty similar, but sometimes I'll buy a different journal just because it's available, and it's really more important to have it accessible as opposed to just having a very expensive or very nice notebook. A lot of these are planning and thinking about projects that I've been working on. And the benefit of having these notebooks available to me is that I have a record of everything that I've ever planned or thought and all the projects that I've been working through over the course of my career. Whenever I want to look back, I can find individual projects that I was working on and how I was breaking out the goals. I can even use some of this to help my teammates when I onboard them to a project. I can even go through and see how I broke out stories, and I might have a record of how well I progressed over time, and if I made mistakes, if I underestimated things, if I was overestimating things, if I was misprioritizing things. I have a record, I can go back and I can look at it. By planning out my projects this way, I've found that I've been very effective at keeping focused, and it's also helped me to find a variety of different careers and make different transitions. For example, I've had the opportunity as a result to work in an agency, to freelance, and now to work as a senior engineer at a product company that I really like. There have been a lot of opportunities that have come to me, and a lot of those ideas, or what eventually led to that, came out in my journaling throughout the day. Now, my journaling actually started out with me recording my workouts. Initially, I was writing out what I was lifting at the gym, and I started to record different things about how I was feeling during the day, or how my workouts made me feel, or how effective they were, or whatever. And that eventually branched into me having 2 separate notebooks, one that I kept for school and one that I kept for my workouts. Now, that eventually moved into my career and enabled me to continue working on that. Another benefit of having my notebooks is that I can go back, look at my previous thoughts, and actually sometimes find them extremely useful for the current day. For example, I have an article that has done quite well on Medium, and that article I had written 2 years before in a notebook, and had written it out as notes and then later on revised it and then rewrote it. But at the time, I just did not have the confidence to post it. Now, recently, I've been writing on a semi-weekly basis, and so I decided that one week I was behind schedule, I needed to post something. I looked through my notebooks, I found this article that was quite well written, in my opinion, and I wrote it out, I edited it, and I submitted it to a publication. It actually got published, and it's been earning me money on the side, and it's pretty entertaining to see people enjoy it. And it's gotten me to realize that I can go back over my notes and do that more and more regularly. So now my process has gone from sitting in front of a blank page, not knowing what to write, to going through previous notes of mine, finding interesting bits that I thought would be a great article to publish, editing it up, and then publishing it and adding whatever new thoughts I had to the article. This has been a really good process for me. It's helped me refine my thinking over time. And this just goes back to the entire point, which is that you won't necessarily benefit immediately. You won't come up with some gold by writing in a notebook, but what you will do is you'll refine your thinking. So give it a shot. I hope it works well for you. And I'm looking forward to reading some of your articles that you publish a year from now because you wrote it in your notebook and you realize that's actually a really great piece. So look forward to reading your comments and to learning more about you and from you. And I will be back with another video soon. All right, thank you. Take care.